offline.
Okay, I'm gonna go to the other meeting. I think it's almost over.
And it's streaming now.
Okay. Okay.
Wednesday.
I'm getting an advertisement, so
Yeah.
that must be something. Looks like an esports advice advertisement with Bud Light as the sponsor.
Yes, that is not sponsoring the channel. That's just an advert.
I see your blender, I think. So I sent off the gift box to you.
Yes, I've got the file. I'll open
And
that.
It had a couple of badly UV mapped corners still.
That's fine. That's fine.
But I sent it to you because I didn't think that I was going to have time to fix up the corners before they were going to actually need it imported as a product.
When do they actually need it? No one's said anything yet.
It's a
Like yesterday?
like a Christmas gift decorating.
Oh right. Yes. Right. Okay.
And I don't know. So but now here I am without my computer and without my files and with time on my hand to do it. So.
Oh no. Typical.
Oh, look at that. Jinxie's here and in Google Hangouts. I'm not going to do Google Hangouts. That would be just too much media.
Oh, is she watching? Oh, in chat. Sorry. I was looking at the wrong one. There are so many windows. Oh no, it's so many things to sort out before these things go.
Well, it's a good thing you've got time.
Yeah.
Well, should we get an Alienware Core 17 for $1,300?
What's the CPU and graphics on it?
The CPU is a Core i7 processor.
Yeah.
It doesn't say what the graphics GPU is.
What is that, a mobile workstation or a?
It's one of their laptops. I had one about 8 years ago that I bought it, and it was so neat, but it was just it was too heavy for a laptop.
Yeah, they're not really that portable. I mean, they're portable obviously because they're laptops, but they're quite beefy machines.
Yeah, and if you try to run it for any length of time without it being plugged in, you were just in for a world of hurt. But the thing that I liked and I hated about it was that it had a hybrid GPU configuration where you could, tell it to use the built-in GPU and the additional GPU card.
Oh, yes.
But that was incompatible with just about everything else. And they were always behind with their drivers.
Yes, yeah.
It was no fun to try and figure out why suddenly my screen would not display anything.
Yeah, the so it probably had multiple display outputs at the back as well.
I don't remember off the top of my head. It probably could run a HDMI out,
Yeah.
but I mean, it was just that you couldn't tell it to, always make use of the right mode. It would suddenly say, "Oh, I've got to stop using this GPU," and then the renderer would stop entirely. And if they weren't working in conjunction with one another, then my favorite MMO would slow to a crawl.
Yeah. Yeah, I often found that the only way you could solve that was to disable the onboard graphics, which kind of, I mean, it's not necessarily that it defeats the purpose of it, but that was the only way to force the system to use the graphics card properly.
Yeah. So I finally wiped it and installed Linux on it for experimental purposes. It's not my gaming machine anymore.
But it'll still be good for that. I mean, those things have a relatively long shelf life, and they still have, to a certain degree, quite a decent resale value.
Is that so?
Apparently, yes, from what I've seen.
Mm.
Right. Okay. I was just setting up all the. You have to do the announcement, the stream information, and all the game category and all that sort of stuff when you set up a stream.
What is our game category?
Well, it doesn't have one for IMVU, so we tend to just go with creative.
Yes.
That's the game that's the game/category, and then the community obviously doesn't have an IMVU community either, so we tend to go with virtual reality, which is not exactly correct, but it's in the ballpark. Right, okay. Right, the gift box. There is a tip for you, actually, because of the way that you set up your... because you use the units system thing.
I thought I did that, yeah.
Yes, yeah. Well, because you use that, a tip for you when you do... Whoops, that's the wrong file. Hang on, let me see if we can find it again.
Where's the singer? I have to drop that mouse at least 5 times a day or my day is not complete. That's not it. What the heck? Get my brick.
So when you use the units system, when you set up when you do the whole 0.01 thing,
Right.
what that does is it makes the object teeny tiny relative to the grid. So if you're working and snapping objects when you move them, it becomes quite awkward to snap the objects because they're snapping or moving relative to the huge grid that's the object's been reduced relative to. So you can fix that if you press the N key, N for Nigel, or from the view menu, view properties. If you go into the display subsection, you can change the grid scale to 0.01 to match the value that you've got in the unit system.
Right.
And that reduces the grid or readjusts the grid to fit the project, and it just makes it easy to then work with. So
sure, that makes plenty of sense.
Yeah, so it's just a tip.
Oh, how come your stuff is pink?
It's because although the textures are associated with the materials, they're not included with the file, so it doesn't know where documents XYZ is.
Got it.
So all I need to do is remap them.
Is there a way to bake it inside of the?
Yes. Let me just what did I call them? Gift.
So, let me ask you a Twitch question. So, is our conversation here being recorded on Twitch?
Yes.
So, okay, so they're not hearing just your answers. They're hearing my question as
Oh
well.
yes, they get the audio as well. So everything is essentially sent through from Zoom onto Twitch. Gift wrap PNG. So that's associated it with the wrong material, but we can fix that later. But to bake the textures or to include them, you just left click the little icon here that looks like a little box, and that'll lock the file into the Blender project. Obviously when you save the Blender file, it'll include the file in the project. So let me just assign that to the correct material.
Is that your box, Robert? What happened to the polka dots?
We're just doing that now. It's because because the textures weren't included in the file.
Oh. No, I don't know.
Whoops. So I'm adding the ribbon happy. Oops. There we go. So we need to reassign that to, because sometimes it'll do this, it'll only partially assign the so select ribbon, select the box and assign the gift wrap, which is not coming through. Oh, that's why. So gift wrap.
You ignored my text.
What
What was your
text?
text?
It's the one who says, do you want to do Twitch sessions through the holiday week?
I don't necessarily have a problem with that.
It's going to go out in a message to a lot of people. So,
well, we're going to have to now because you've mentioned it on stream.
well, you could be like, you could
Cunning
explain
plan,
how
Baldric.
you are and
So I
there we go.
actually am going to be going off to the Tahoe. So
okay, so Monday the 25th is Christmas Day. Is that okay with you? Not you, you're going to Tahoe.
Yes, that's probably fine. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know how many people will show
this
up.
This is like the war on Christmas, huh?
No, we're going to be making Christmas presents. What are you talking about?
But it's too late. You've got to open them on Christmas.
I don't know if our gift to people is the knowledge, the learning that's going to go on here.
All right.
Let's see, that's the 27th.
So let me just save that. Save as gift.
So which was your email to me? I'm looking now. I don't see anything. You sure you sent it to me?
Me or JazzCat?
No, you weren't talking to me when you said
Oh, where I said there? Or somewhere else?
no. You said I was ignoring your email. I was looking for the email that you sent me. But you
Oh,
didn't send it to
no.
me.
Yeah, no, I was saying he ignored my message.
Well, that looks great. That looks almost perfect, right?
Yes, it looks exactly like the one that you sent through.
Okay.
No,
Well, no,
it's
I think you've gotten the ribbons a little bit further along.
no. I haven't done anything to anything other than
Oh.
just reassigning the images, which can be a bit fiddly sometimes.
Yeah.
But
So you see what I'm talking about with the corners.
yes,
No.
now as we were saying in the last stream, depending on what your texture is like. So let me just select this. So depending on what your texture is like, your UV map is going to be challenging relative to how you want the texture to appear on the box. So the way that you did it was, well, didn't do those under ones, but you basically manipulated the individual UVs. Whoops.
Yeah. So I looked at each corner as a separate sort of entity, and I tried to
Yeah.
get it that
Yeah.
it would, look reasonable.
Yeah. So essentially, what you were doing. So if I just select all of them, is you've got a split in this corner because you can't. It's just physically impossible to, unless you do a unique image that's specific to so that you could unwrap. Let me just do another corner. Oh, you did all the corners. Oh, no, not this one. Okay, so if I just... So you could create... Let me just make this a bit bigger so it's easier to see. So you could create essentially a unique UV island. So it uses all the faces of the selection that you're wanting to map. But obviously what that then does is it stretches some of the points or some of the detailing of the image. If you were doing a unique texture or an element of the texture that uniquely addressed this shape, you might be able to get away with this kind of UV map, but that's always a challenge for something like this, that you've got these very regular shapes that will distort. So the only way really to do use a texture like this is to, which is what you were doing, but a quicker way of doing it is to switch to edges mode and lay down some seams. So you right click, shift right click the edges of the box, the corners. I'll go into wireframes so that's easier to see. And then from mesh menu, edges, mark seam, and they highlight orange, indicating there's a seam there. And what that then does is that you can, if you did this across the entire box, you wouldn't necessarily need to select individual elements, but using that corner that we just unwrapped using the unwrap layout, if we do this again with the seam in place, it does exactly what you were trying to do. Oops.
What were you trying to do, Robert?
So he's talking about setting it up so that the UV coordinates make a little bit more sense.
Oh, yeah, because it seems like it's a box, so it should just be like 6 sides of a cube, right?
It should be, but
Well, yes. If you were, I mean, for instance, I mean, this is where what you're wanting the image to look like on the box comes into play, because you're always going to get issues when it comes to corners. Because if you're just doing, you could do it like this. So you select all the top faces and you map them. It hasn't done it here in this instance, but you map them so that each corner is relative to a corner of the image. And that would ensure that the top edge of the box is mapped 1-to-1 relative to the texture. What you would then do is select the sides and unwrap those.
pick each one of the sides and make sure that
it hasn't. It's because it's a split. Because we've got a split here, it's flipped the UVs. But essentially, what you're doing is just.
And of course, I didn't care a fig for what was going on underneath the bottom lip of the.
Well, that's fine. I mean, that's okay in terms of just, understanding what. It's not necessarily what the box is trying to do, but how you want the UV, because you can. Your options basically are to treat the box as a single unit, so you're UV mapping the 256 by 256 per side, so you've got a left, a front, a back, top, bottom, or you're mapping to elements, which is what you were doing before. So, I mean, with a texture like this, sometimes it's easiest to just do this, treat the box as a single unit. So you're mapping all 6 sides of the box as if they were just single faces, so that they map 1-to-1. But, it depends on the texture that you're using, how you want the thing to appear, and it kind of avoids the issue with the corner that you end up with, because you can't obviously wrap around an... Where's the face I did? Oh, I must have redone it. You can't wrap a texture formally around a corner without having a split or causing some sort of distortion because of the orientation of the UVs relative to the texture.
Yeah, but that looks like it's pretty good, right?
Yeah. It's. I mean, that's the thing. You can get it close enough to work. It's just then a question of just shifting the texture, the UVs around a bit, so that you.
I'd shove that a little bit more towards the center to get. Yeah, there you go. That way you don't.
You don't get the issue there with the corner.
Yeah, the edge. Although, I mean, in the real world, there would be, if you took wrapping paper and did it, you would definitely have things where it didn't appear to wrap.
Yes, yeah, because you've got to do all the tuck and fold stuff. Yeah.
So, but this is an illusion that I want to try and maintain. Is that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Of course.
But you can create the illusion that. There's no seam there just by specific placement. I mean, it's a curved triangle, but because it's over the corner there, it creates the illusion that it's a spot that's mapped across a corner.
So you got the UVs to tie together by marking those edges as seam.
Yes, because the UVs, generally speaking, unless the mesh is actually split, and I'll show you what that means. Whoops. Oh yeah, so all these faces are all connected. So that basically means when the UVs are mapped or unwrapped, they are all they're connected together as well in the same way that the mesh is. But if the faces are split, and there's no connection.
So if you select another one of those faces, we'll see where that guy is.
So if what you'll see is these two will be joined, but this one won't. So if I press the E key, so which one is that? So that's the. So that face is the unique one that's on its own, whereas these two are joined as a unit.
Uh-huh.
I mean, basically, with something like this, it just depends how. Just undoing this. There we go. It just depends how you want your texture to appear across the box.
Right.
So, you know, it is in instances like this, it might be just as easy just to map the box as if you are doing it as a box. So it's just 6 sides, and each side is treated as a 1-to-1 UV with the image.
Yeah.
But with the ribbons,
So is there a quick way to say, make this this face fill my image space? I mean, you can see those
these ones off to the side, yes.
side are very, very short.
Yes, that is what reset does.
Oh.
So what it's doing is it's doing a best guess to fit the images in.
Okay. Well, that's pretty good.
Yeah. It's a quick way of doing it, but obviously it's doing a yeah, so every face is remapped and reset 1-to-1 with the entire image.
But that didn't change the other material, right?
No, it doesn't do anything to the polka dot or any of the other assignments.
So how would you proceed with this way? Would you select all of the ones that need rotating and rotate them all at once?
A quick way again is to use use seams. So if I just switch into wireframe edge mode, so I'm going to select this edge that's where the lid meets the box. That's essentially just a hidden edge. You're not really going to see that, so we can place a seam there. Edges, mark seam. And what that allows us to do is select that loop, unwrap, and it creates it's a teeny tiny thing at the moment, but we can orientate that upright.
So that's all of it.
Yes, that's the entire ribbon.
Just because you were able to say this part is the seam.
Yes, because it creates a virtual split in the UV. And this is what I was trying to explain on Monday.
And once it knows where to cut, then it tries to join the others together as much as it can.
Yes, it creates a unified, essentially it's a unified UV, because if we don't do this, hang on, let me just reset the cursor's position, because that's the next thing to do. Right, so that's the N key, by the way. So yes, if you do a, so if I remove that seam, that's an,
What
yes,
does the
selected.
N key do?
Chase
N key
seam.
do.
And then I select that loop of edges, faces again. So if you watch, I'll move it over to the side here so that it's easier to see. So that's the split loop of faces, but if I do unwrap now, it'll do that. So what it's trying to do is distort the UVs, the presentation of the UVs, to fit the shape.
Because it can't cut them, it knows that it needs to make a loop.
Yes, it knows it needs to make a loop, so it can't. So it's making a loop, but obviously relative to what you're actually trying to do, that's not what you want.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why your seams are useful, because it means that you can do a lot in the same action, as opposed to what you might do, which is just to select faces along the top of the box and unwrap those as a unit, which produces the same result. You get the linear chain of faces, and then you would do the same for the bottom. And then you can correct those and do the same thing, so that works just as readily. So if I select both of those, ooh, we've got a couple of strays there, but we've got two UV sections that are linear that we can then map to the image. But again, that depends on how you want the texture to appear.
Well, we want it to look happy.
We do. So I'll do
So
that.
it will be happy if we properly texture it.
There are two extra faces there for some reason.
They kind of look like eyebrows.
So I wonder if it would be easier to make like a flat plane, like a flat narrow plane, and then just map it tiled along that plane, and then like bend it and stuff from there into the bow shape. Not now.
Well, you can do that. Oh, my screen's stuck. Now what's it doing?
It just seems like the mapping is 10 times harder than making the box in the first place.
Well, it was easy when he did the seam. That helped considerably.
Blender's locked up for some reason. That doesn't happen very often.
It's confused. It thinks it's 3D Studio Max.
Yeah, well, I downloaded, I'll have a look at Hexagon, and apparently Daz Studio does have the ability to be, yeah, that's crashed. Daz Studio does have the ability to be used as an actual 3D application rather than just the pre-made content thing that it has.
Right.
So, you know, as an alternative to, as an alternative free application that can be used for content creation, those look like possibilities.
Right. I downloaded that as well.
Let's try that again. Right, so what I need to do is make sure that we have no remove doubles. Right, we had some extra vertices, that's where those odd faces were coming from. So, yeah, okay, so that's okay now. So what I'm going to do is just add a seam around the entire... In fact, actually, no. If we do this We'll create the splits in the ribbon to make that easier. Mesh, edges, mark seam, and then map that. Which one cross over? Right, so it's that one. Oops. U unwrap. That creates our loop of faces. R for rotate, and the proportional edit is on. So R for rotate, rotate that vertical. And then what we can do here, because we've got a chain of faces, what we can do, press the N key to get the UV image editor's properties panel, position the cursor in the bottom corner. We can then move the UVs so the bottom corner of the UV is in that bottom corner. Then if we press the S key to scale up, whoops, and then press the full stop, do that again, full stop changes the pivot point, which is this thing, so we want it at the 2D cursor. Press the S key and we can just scale up until we've got the width.
Oh, I see. So it's scaling from the corner.
Yeah, it scales
Instead
from
of
the
from-
corner. So otherwise, what you could do if it's not doing, if the pivot point is set to the median, which is the default,
Yeah, make it harder.
yeah, it's what you would then do is position the UVs so that they were approximately in the center of the, well, best guess, center of the
Right.
images, and then scale up.
So I like the way that looks. That's pretty happy looking.
Yes. So if we do that to the other one, so that's Alt right click, and then we have to deselect that top and bottom one. So this will produce two loops. So with the mouse over the UV image editor, we can press the E key, and that'll create a set of. So why has it done that? Oh right, that's right. So we didn't need to put.
Do you have a seam?
Yes, we didn't need to put a seam there because we create the seam essentially by deselecting the top and bottom center faces, so that because the loop, that loop goes all the way around, and because we've included this face and that face in the bottom, because those are included in that loop, it creates a physical split in this loop of faces.
Sure.
So we don't need to set a seam, so we can clear that. Mesh, edges, clear seam, and then we can do it again, and it should work out okay. Let's deselect that. Deselect that. Whoops. Yep. Mouse over the UV image editor. Press the E key and that remaps. Yeah, so we've got two chains, so they're positioned relative to the bottom corner again. And then all we do is select them all, so that's the A key. Press S. Oops, we need to set the pivot point to the 2D cursor. Press the S key. Set that in place.
Wait, how do you support Hatbox with checkboards? What does that say?
That's Twitch's online coin.
Can we? I bought some bits. Can I use them?
But no, well, no, because the channel isn't big enough.
Wait, shekels and bits are not the same thing? That's confusing. That's like weirder than things IMVU does.
So, what?
Well, there's a. Oh, I see. This is really different. I mean, there's bits, right? Aren't they called bits?
I think you're talking about Bitcoins.
No.
Oh
There's
no, for Twitch, yes, the whatever. It's not a payment system as such, but yeah, there's the bits.
It's like shout outs or something.
Yeah.
Or high fives or something. Which appears to be different.
But you can only use those on channels that are set up to accept them.
Well, I bought some, so hurry up and get set up.
Well, it apparently need is it 1,000 people?
Well, you're on your way. You have over 200, right?
No, that's views, not. You need to. You need 1,000 followers.
Actual people, huh?
Oh, 1,000 followers.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you have like 12.
Yeah. So what I'll do with the box is unwrap it as a box. So we use press the home key so that we focus back on the image. So we'll do the sides one at a time. U key, unwrap. So that side is you have to do some minor adjustments because the UVs are slightly distorted to account for the shape of the box at the corner, because obviously the lid section is slightly wider than the body of the box. So you do have to be aware of distortion that you may cause by having to adjust the UVs to match up. But for something like this is probably a better approach to unmapping the box, the gift box. I'll just do this quickly so that we get an idea of what it's doing. See, so it's reorganizing the individual face UVs from the previous mapping. And that one's okay. That one's slightly wonky for some reason.
Well, that one face, I'm sure it looks, yeah, it's not square or rectangle.
Oh, okay. That's fine. Just shift that over. We did that one, so I need to do the bottom.
Yeah, it's kind of caterwaumped.
Yeah, that is the individual faces unwrapped. You know, higgledy-piggledy.
Yes.
So that's the bottom.
I noticed it seems to have something to do with the perspective view that you've got on when you say unwrap. So if I look on edge on at the corner, and I say U for unwrap, it will usually give me some sort of perspective projection.
Oh, I've not noticed that before. Now, the only tricky bit about this is making sure that I have to determine which corner is. So let me just. So we're now in top view, top ortho or orthogonal. Orthogonal. So when we select the faces and we unwrap. So is that corner. No, it's not. So that should be down here. That one should be down here. That one should be up there. And that one's where it needs to be. But are their orientations correct? Yes, that one's okay. That one's okay. That one looks okay as well. And that one looks okay. But we do need to switch back to median X. We need to compensate for the fact that the bows run through the middle of the... Oops. So that's just roughly mapped out. But you've always got to check the alignment of the images when you do this. So that's one of the issues, is that even though you are unwrapping a box, you've got to make sure that that red spot isn't just in the left, but it's also relative to what's going on in the bottom section, because the bottom of this map doesn't necessarily relate to the top of the lid, but the side of the box and what that's doing. So even though we've got the box unwrapped, there's still a bit of fiddling to do to make sure that everything is lined up and matching correctly. But as we did with the ribbon around the box, you do the same thing with the ribbon itself. So you, because of because of its structure, it's easier to do. So we can just do a unwrap, and that'll create a chain which will be a bit wonky because of the shape of the... But we can adjust that if it gives us the option to. Unwrap, we want conformal. Yeah, so it is picking up the shape of the mesh. So that's the only big difference between doing the box and doing ribbons, or in this instance the ribbon. Because the ribbon is actually slightly deformed, it's not a regular shape, we end up with a slightly distorted UV, because the UV is trying to match the shape of the mesh. So that then means you have to go through this and adjust the UVs. So to what
what about trying to do a ortho projection from the top and see if that helps before you say you to unwrap?
Well, the quick way is to do what you did before, which is just to do a reset.
Okay.
But, you know, that essentially is doing what it generally does anyway, which is it maps each individual face to the image.
I would be content with that result.
Yes, I mean, it works. Most people do that. It works.
Except some of the ribbons look backwards.
Yes, it's because... so what you can do with that then is select the loop, UV image editor. Let me see, Phil.
So, okay. Now wait a minute. It's on the bottom, on the other side of the ribbon. It looks written forwards.
Yes, it's because you're looking at the inside. it'll make more sense if I do this.
No, I understand it. I just, how are we going to go about fixing?
It makes more sense if I do that.
Can you remap the UVs on one side of the ribbon and not the other?
No, because what we're actually looking at is how the mesh actually is. It's one-sided. It's all one-sided. So, I mean, this is us looking on the inside of the box, which if I...
Right. So that's a circumstance where there's not really a solution, huh?
Well, depending on what you wanted to do for the ribbon, what you could do, won't do it with this in this particular instance because it's actually quite complicated because as Jinxy was saying, what you could do is you create your original first loop. So you create your loop, you don't shape it or change it, you just create the formal loop. You UV map the loop so that you get the texture how you want it to appear, and then you distort it and change the shape of it. And it just reduces the amount of work that you have to do.
Right.
But in these instances, because of the way that the mesh was originally created, because what you did was you created a loop and then mirrored it. So when you mirror something, it tends to invert the mirrored side of the mesh. So at a guess, it's this side was the original, and then it was mirrored across, which when made real, so it ceases becoming a mirrored duplicate, it inverts. So what you can do with these is you select them, so that's Alt Shift right click to select multiple loops, and then what we can do in the shading is flip the direction so that all the mesh faces are pointing in the same direction. But
Right.
so you've got two options. When you so you've got the option in IMVU to make things double-sided, two-faced, and what that's essentially doing is, as you know, obviously, it's mirroring and inverting the face. This is obviously for those that don't know what's actually going on.
Well, I often pretend like I don't know.
Yeah. So what it's actually doing is taking an individual face and essentially duplicating it and inverting it. So you can enable that in IMVU so that the face itself is duplicated, inverted, and looks like it's solid all the way through, or you can keep it all single-faced, but you then have to do something whereby you can extrude a selection. I'll just do this really roughly. You can extrude a selection that is really rough.
Well, that's kind of good.
So that you create a thickness to the mesh. So we've now essentially got a top. Well, we haven't actually created a bottom in this instance, but you'd have a top, a side, and underneath a bottom of them. So it'd be an actual three-dimensional mesh as opposed to a distorted plane. And that way you can keep the mesh single-sided in IMVU, so you're not doing any of that sort of stuff that can get in the way of other meshes. But you have a ribbon that is textured on both sides.
Right.
Let me undo that. Or you could, if you didn't want the thickness, but you did want the duplication, you just... Why is that not?
Well, you could duplicate it
Yes.
and scale it down a little tiny bit.
So you duplicate the mesh, which is what I've got now. I'll reset that, and then I just flip those. So you've now got two loops of faces that are coincidental. They occupy the same space, but the face orientation is opposite. So one points up and the other points down, essentially.
Well, you don't want them in exactly the same place, right?
Well, no. I mean, this is just an option in terms of if you wanted the ribbon to be thin like this, just a strip of faces, then you could do this. But if you wanted some thickness, you could do it. Oops, you could do this again and then create a set of faces to fill in the gaps.
We may have to live with it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because the two-face thing in IMVU is selective based on material, because this is a separate material, this will be two-sided in IMVU. So that's, I'll clean this up before it's submitted, but that's essentially what you'd be doing with the UVs.
Is Robert going to submit it?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I'll tidy the box up and send it back, but
because I think you should make a box, like your box, the way you would make a box, and you submit it to the catalog.
oh right, yes, I'll do that.
And Polly has made one, and then Robert will have his, even though, you know, he didn't do all the mapping himself, but he tried. We have a lot of video of him trying.
Well, it's just, I mean, Robert's not a 3D mesher, so he's not necessarily going to know all the sort of the ins and outs and tricks of things that you can do to a box to get it to unwrap properly.
Yeah, and unwrapping is the worst.
A lot of people have issues with it. So let me save that, exit edit mode. And save. So do we want to finish your hat boxes?
Yeah, let's put the ribbon on those. Those are pretty well mapped, I think. Oh, let's put the polka dot texture on those.
Well, you've got that file, so you have to
oh, so when you
screen
say
share.
we should finish the hat boxes, you mean that I should stop doing other things and do that instead?
By we, he means you.
Yeah. Okay, I actually think I might be at a good stopping place here. Let me see, except for people arguing with me. Let's see. Oh, whatever.
Well, whilst you're doing that, I'll be right back.
Oh, okay. Are we taking a break? We need like a little, you need a little sign. You need to put up a little sign, like be right back.
Be right back. Well, I'm sure that we could probably encourage you not to sing and do a what is it, interstitial music?
Yeah, I only sing for like 5 seconds at a time.
Yep.
It's kind of like,
Because of copyright infringement?
yeah, I was gonna say it's kind of like that, but
yeah, I'll be right back.
All right. Oh. Look, there's Polly. Hi,
oh,
Polly.
there's a new post in the vegetarian Slack channel. Oh, what did she say? I don't mind unwrapping. You're crazy, Polly. Well, yeah, we should get Polly to show us some unwrapping.
Unwrapping is probably best on Christmas morning.
hilarious.
Yeah.
And it's not relaxing. Unwrapping packaged presents is not oh, it's oh. I was all excited. Vegetarians are talking. We're gonna have a mutiny. But no, it's not that exciting.
What does this have to? I have nothing against vegetarianism. But
I don't know. I just was like, I was just checking to see if I forgot anything that I need to do before I open Blender. That's all. And I noticed that I had Slack message, and it was from the vegetarian group.
oh, okay.
It's very exciting. I know.
So did you have to do anything special to join the vegetarian group?
No. In fact, I think if you joined it and you weren't vegetarian, but you just wanted to know Redwood City's vegetarian lunch options, I think that would be good enough. But I do have to make a post to our blog first, the creator news, before I can open the Blender. Which really, that's for JazzCat, and he can't even hear me right now. Whatever.
You don't know that he can't hear you.
That's true. Polly was doing that before. She was like, oh, I'm just doing some things, but really, she was actually listening at the same time.
Because it's good to listen.
Let's see. I just need to format this thing a little bit. Let's see. The extra. It's very quiet now. Robert, I thought you were going to sing.
Sing? Well, I'm drawing a blank.
Oh, you want us to pick the song for you?
I could hum a little bit. I'll do Girl from Ipanema.
Oh, nice.
Dun 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun,
The
dun,
girl from
dun, dun.
Ipanema. No, you can't hum it. You can't da
telling
da da,
you
and I'm
that
like singing.
you're- it was going to be an instrumental piece.
I'm sorry. No, it should be. You should continue on. I was like, I just want to like show that I know the song or something. I just need to prove I know that one. I don't know. Oh, I hear something.
Doesn't mean anything.
Formatting is so weird.
Back.
Hey.
Welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I'm just trying to format this post for the creator news, and I just need to get it done.
You mean you didn't have the file open and ready to go and...
Oh, I had the file open. Remember when I was asking you if you could do Christmas week? That was me getting the document.
Right.
I already got it approved and by marketing and everything. Just needed it approved by you. And now I need it formatted.
No, I mean the Blender file.
What? Oh, that's what you were talking about?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wait. Let me see. I think this is all right. It'd be better if it had a picture in it, but the pictures don't show up right in the creator tab in the client. I think I will just publish it now and fix any mistakes later. I should really email Shannon though. Okay, I'll do it later. You know what? He works late. I'll do it later. I'll email him about it later. I will open the Blender file and I will share my screen and all that fun stuff. Okay. Where's Blender? Okay, let me just close some things maybe. Blender. So I never sent you the Hatbox file.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, let's see. Let's see my file history. Yeah. Okay. Now where? Oh, shoot. Wait. Oh, I'm not in the meeting. Hold on. I'm not. I can't share it because I'm not in the meeting, but I will be.
Well, whilst you're doing that, I'm just going to do something very quickly that might be useful for the FBX stuff.
Lovely.
So,
Okay, but I'm.
a lot of people are trying to determine whether they can export export to FBX from whatever application it is that they're using. So here's a simple test that we can use to test whether they can. So just create, however you do that in whatever application you're using, create a box that is just 1 unit by 1 unit by 1 unit. Whatever the unit of measurement is it doesn't matter. We just need a 1 by 1 by 1 box, and that's it. Don't do anything to it. Export it to FBX, and that'll create a box. I mean, you might have to apply some materials to it or UV map a texture, but it's not specifically necessary for this test. But export it to FBX. That'll create your file. And then what you can do is import that as is, without doing anything, import that into IMVU using the standard default settings that are presented and see what it does. If the box doesn't appear in the view in IMVU, but you don't get any indication that export failed, it likely means that the box is either teeny tiny and too small, so you can't see it, or it's absolutely huge, which is outside the realms of the preview room that you use whilst you're putting your projects together. In either case, what you can then do is adjust the apply scale value. Let me just open, should have opened IMVU up. What you can then do is just adjust the apply scale value up or down depending on how big or small the box is. And if it brings the box in and the boxes appear in the editor, then you can export from whatever it is that you're using as your content creation tool to IMVU.
And coming soon, I don't know if it's in the current version, but it's in an upcoming version. There's a little warning that'll mention that you've got a mesh that is like 2,000 times the size of an avatar, or
Yeah.
1/100th of the size of an avatar, and you can use that to help us with the judging how much scale to choose.
Yeah, because as we found or discovered, during all the testing, the FBX thing creates a root node of its own, which you can use to test whether this works, because the mesh will just be latched onto that root.
Right.
And in other news, Google recognizes redonkulous as an actual word.
Well, it is, isn't it?
Apparently it is. I thought it was one of those sort of made up social media words or whatever, but no, I typed it and it was like, fine, no spelling correction needed.
It's a perfect cromulent word.
Redonkulous. Okay, I'm ready. You want me to share my screen?
Yeah. So just before you do that, I'll just quickly go over so when you load in your FBX, for testing. That's your cube. You want to adjust the apply scale, so that will be either adjusted down or up, depending on whether something has appeared or not in the editor view. So that's how you can quickly test whether you can export content via FBX from whatever application you're using. Right, so share your screen and then we'll...
Oh, hold on, okay. Now you want me to share it. Okay, almost there. Okay, how's that?
There we go. Right, so...
I didn't remove that. I don't remember how to use Blender. It's been a few.
Well, I think the middle button has something to do with it.
Oh,
Yeah.
the middle mouse button. We should have a session just on that because apparently some people don't know it. Actually, I do pretty good with the middle mouse button. It's just like when you use the left mouse button, things happen that I don't expect to happen.
Well, here's the thing about the middle mouse button. Quite a few other 3D applications actually use it in the same way Blender does. So I don't know if that's because Blender is emulating them or they're emulating Blender, or it's just something that some of them do and some of them don't. But this whole middle mouse thing is just a complete red herring, because there are quite a few applications that use it in exactly the same way as Blender. So
Polly said she did a speed potato once. I don't know what that means. Like she ate it really fast, or it grew really fast, or she put little wheels on it and rolled it down a hill.
UV
Okay, so
unwrapping
how-
a potato.
She just said I did a speed potato once in the comments.
Yes,
On
I'm just reading.
So,
my exciting.
Right, so with yours, we can kind of do what we were just talking about with Robert's Giftbox with the bow. We can actually create some depth by extruding some of the faces for the ribbon.
Oh, she speed painted the potato. That makes sense. Okay, so what do I have to do first?
no, there was no potato. Speed paint.
Oh, on the potato. Oh,
No.
I would watch that. No, wait. Oh, drawing a potato, not drawing on the potato.
Speed.
I would watch her
draw
paint a potato though.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you? It would be kind of like painting a model, but it would be painting a potato.
Well, people paint rocks, so I don't see why they can't paint potatoes.
I think speed painting a rock is kind of a waste, though.
Of the speed paint at the rock of your time. Okay, how do we make the ribbon?
All right, so if you right-click one of the white meshes, and what we can do here is from the view menu, bottom right, left, that's it, align view, and we want view selected.
View, oh,
There we go. That just focuses in a bit clearer. Right,
Okay.
so switch to edit mode.
oh, sorry, I was distracted. Switch to, edit
Yeah,
mode.
object mode, edit mode. Now, if I remember correctly, what you can do actually, just to make this easier to see, is switch to solid face mode, which is that circular checker thing to the right of edit mode, the button.
Oh,
That's it. Select solid. That's better.
Holly said you can buy a kit to paint a rock. I'm thinking like maybe some like city kids or, somebody who don't have any rocks.
Yeah, well, the rock is a prime prerequisite.
Some people are rock underprivileged. Okay, anyway, it's not my fault. Holly is distracting me.
Right, switch to face select mode. So click the face button to your right. Keep going. That's it. Those three. That one. Right, you want to select that loop of faces that you've got. So Alt right click.
Oh, right click.
Yeah, Alt right click.
Right. I'm all. Whoa, not that.
There we go.
I think that was wrong. That's right.
That's right. Yeah, it's if I remember correctly, we've got this mirrored and duplicated. So whatever you're doing to one will appear on the other.
Okay. Yeah.
So from the mesh menu.
Oh.
And faces.
Faces. What faces?
The menu option faces. It's about halfway up.
Oh.
It doesn't have the option to do this. Okay, so a couple of entries down, you can see where it says extrude. Yeah, just click that region. Move the mouse. That's it.
Can we move it out to the sideways?
Well, if you just move it so that you create some artificial depth in the direction that you're going right now. So just left click just to set it in place.
Are we going to have the same problem that Robert had with trying to map this?
No.
No.
So if you press the S key and then the Z key or Z key and then move the mouse, you can scale horizontally.
Ooh, but how do I scale outwards?
Well, keep going. You want to go upwards.
Oh, I do?
Yeah.
Like that?
Yeah, that'll do for now. Right click, left click, sorry. And then what you can do now is just select that face that you can see right in front of you. Yeah. Right click. And then just use the widget handles. Actually, here's what you can do actually with this. Before you do that, where you change the selector, so you have the pointy arrow, the curvy bit, and then the pointy thing with a spade on the end. I think you called it last time.
Oh, down
Or was that
here?
Robert that called it a spade? So
shovel?
Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't me.
It looks like a mate, really.
The text button to the right where it says global, click that and select normal. And the orientation of the widget changes to the orientation of the face. So if you left click drag the blue widget handle now, it alters not quite that much, but that'll do for now. Left click to set it in place. And then just rotate around the object so that you can check the other faces.
Well, that looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay. Are these the same size? Why are they different sizes? Seems weird. Are they different sizes?
It's artisan.
Yes, artisan ribbons.
Not supposed to be artisan though.
That's actually going to be my go-to explanation for just about everything.
Wait, how do I? Oh, here. I don't know why that wasn't finished there. I was trying to strafe it. Artisan is going to be your.
So if you rotate that so that you can see the inside of that face that you have selected right now. So rotate the view. Yeah, it's not selected on the inside, so that means that we've extruded a complete loop of faces. So we've got an inside and an outside to that mesh.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah. So we can do one of two things at this point. We can do what you suggested or mentioned in earlier, and that's unwrap this simple shape as we've got it now, and then we can fiddle with it. But because we have it unwrapped, any changes that we make to it will be limited in their effect on the UVs.
Okay, that sounds good.
Do we have a material assigned to this?
I don't think so. I think we assigned the boxes, but
yeah,
not the...
so exit edit mode. Go into material properties. That's the sphere button. The one that looks like a sphere to the right. No, on the right. That's it. That's the one.
All over the place.
Yeah, it's like there's 3 different buttons with sphere icons on them. Yeah. Right, so that doesn't have a material. So click the new button. And click that text input. Yeah, so you can either double click that text you've got your mouse over and then type something. Press enter.
I don't know if I want some square brackets or something. Not necessary.
Not at the moment. I mean, if we've got multiple materials, so it's probably something that we'd want to do at some point, but we don't have to do it right now. In the diffuse section, left click the color sample that's sort of off-white grayish, very pale, down below.
What?
The diffuse, that's it, where your mouse is.
Oh, diffuse. It just looks white to me.
Yeah, it's a slight off-white color. So if you click in the color wheel, we can set a color for the object.
Okay.
That's it. That just makes it easy to see. Right, so now left click the texture properties button, which is the red and white checker icon that's to the right of the sphere that you just clicked.
Oh.
That's it. Click the new button again. Type a name for this, so do the same thing again. Double click the entry there and rename it.
Is it okay if I named it the same thing?
Yep, that's fine. Scroll down to the image subsection, and we need to create an image for this, so click the new button. Yep. Give this a name.
Is ribbon acceptable?
Yeah, ribbon's okay.
This size seems wrong.
Yeah, just change the size, so left click.
Oh, that's not left.
Yeah, no, left, that's it. And then, so your width will be 128.
I know, it's always my other one.
Yeah.
By what, 512?
Don't feel bad. I have that exact same problem.
Or 64 by 512.
Yes, depending on how, depending on your texture, you can do 128, 64, whatever the ribbon texture is supposed to look like.
I'm doing 64 by 512. I hope no engineer tells me like, well, actually, when you choose that size, Duke resizes it for you and mixed it.
That should be okay because it's 512 max on one dimension.
Yeah, it should be okay. Sometimes I hear them say things and I'm like,
Okay, so in generated type.
If you choose a bad size, then we will fix it for you.
I think 64 by 512 is a good size.
Well, it's certainly multiples of 2, which is what I've heard.
Did you just cancel that?
What?
You just cancel. We didn't complete the.
Oh no, what? What did I do?
I've no idea what you did. So click the
I
new
clicked
button.
scene. I have to make another one?
Ribbon. 64 by 512.
Oh, like I didn't click OK?
Right, so just before you do anything, you see those three buttons where it says blank, UV grid, and color grid. Click the UV grid. And that's okay. So if you scroll back up to the top, yeah, we see we have a gridded texture assigned to that image, to that texture. Right? We have a gridded texture image assigned to the texture properties.
Awesome.
Right, so we want to UV map these. Okay, so what we want to do here is if you right click the mesh, it looks like it's already selected, so enter edit mode. We're going to play around with seams here because we've got a mesh that has some depth. So if you switch to edge select mode, that's the three buttons, the middle of the three buttons where you vertex, edge, and face. To the right.
Here.
That's it.
It's so tiny. Like maybe I just need to go to the optometrist. But...
Yeah. So Alt right click the inner edge to select that loop of edges. That's it. Right, from the mesh menu, edges, and then you want mark seam. Do that to the other side. So just do an Alt right click and select that inner loop. That's it, and do the same. Mesh, edges, mark sharp, that's it. And then we need to do this once more. So if you
I did mark seam, not mark sharp. Is that okay?
Sorry, yeah, sorry. If you rotate the scene so that you're looking at the point where the two ribbons join, there's an edge there that we need to mark on the inside of the mesh.
Oh,
so just rotate around, that's it. So if you right click the inside of the mesh, that'll select the edge that's on the inside there. With that,
did it select it?
Yeah, it is selected because the widget moved there.
Okay. Yeah, the two shapes are kind of poking into each other.
So if you right click in there again, if you watch the widget, right click.
I am. I must just have the seam because it's not.
Yeah, it's not doing it now. But you can tell sometimes which edge you've selected depending on the orientation of the widget. So if you select it and the widget points in one direction, you've selected one edge. But if you right click again and it points in another direction, you've actually selected another edge. So there are two edges there because of the shape of that actual mesh, because it's a solid loop of faces all the way around. So at that point, there's an inside edge that's associated with the inside loop of faces, and there's an outside edge that's associated with the outside edge of loop of faces. So you might have to do this twice because we can use that point to create a natural split in the UVs when they are unwrapped. So the UV map unwraps flat. So if you go into the mesh menu, yep, edges, mark seam, that's it, and switch to, if you, the white button, the white spherical button, yeah, if you click that and select wireframe, we can see which edges are selected. So you can see the two edges there now. There are two pairs because obviously we've got a mirrored mesh. So you want to select, right click the other one that's not selected.
I don't see enough. I mean, like, there's one edge from the one piece, and then there's one edge from the mirrored piece, and I don't see any other edge.
Well, right click that and see what it does. So you've got an overlap, so that edge will be on the... So if you've got two edges, the meshes are overlapped, it basically means that the edge for the shape on the right is embedded into the shape on the left because you've got an overlap. So you right click on the left of that selection that you've currently got.
I think I have to go out of edit mode into object mode and select the other one.
No, it's you should be able to just do that because you have...
See, okay, I'm right clicking this one. Now I'm right clicking this one. See?
Right click the other edge that you can see two edges there. Not the two that you've got selected, but the two that aren't selected.
Oh, these ones that are like in shadow.
Yeah.
Oh, this one there. That one.
Yeah. Apply a seam to that. So mesh, edges.
Oh no, I clicked the wrong one.
That's all right. You don't have to undo that because it doesn't do anything.
Oh, that's a useful feature. Okay. Okay.
So if you press the A key now, just to clear the selection, you can see that we've got two edges marked.
Because they're red?
Yep, that looks okay. So switch to solid mode. So that's the wireframe button that you clicked. Scroll out. Switch to face select. To the right. It's the three buttons with the vertex, edge, and that's it. Alt right click the inside loop of faces. Inside loop, not the edge. You want the actual inside loop of edges, faces.
Wait, why is it selecting both of those?
There we go. Right. Press the U key. Unwrap. Press Control I. That inverts the selection, and press the U key again to unwrap. So it's giving us a warning at the top there that distorted face, there's distorted object, blah blah blah. So exit edit mode.
I don't see a warning.
It disappeared.
Oh. So exit edit mode.
Yeah. And from the object menu,
Which is somewhere here. No, which is this menu. Okay.
Yeah. Click on apply. You want rotation and scale. It'll give us a warning about that.
I didn't see a warning. Oh, I see. It's right here. Cannot apply.
Yeah, because we've got a duplicated object. That's just to let you know that the object is still duplicated. So at this point, although we've got a UV map, an object that's UV mapped, we can actually go ahead and assign a texture to this. So top right, so go back into edit mode. Right, so don't click anything. Switch the outliner editor in the top right corner, switch that to the UV image editor. So click that button in the top left. That's sorry, no, the top left of the top right area. That's it. That one, yeah. You want UV image editor. That's it. Move the mouse. You can expand the view. So if you move the mouse over the border between that editor and the properties panel below, you'll see a double-headed arrow appear. That's it. Left-click, drag down. And do the same on the vertical edge. Just expand it outwards. That's it.
More?
No, that'll do. If you now left-click the... Can you see that button to the left of the new button in the image editor? The one that looks like a picture.
What, it's down here somewhere?
No, in the UV image editor where you just were. That's it.
Oh.
Select ribbon. Right, so if you just switch to texture mode, which is the little white spherical icon that you were just down below, underneath the 3D view, where the edit mode, object mode selector is.
Wait, what? Oh. Is it one of these?
Yeah, texture. That's the texture assigned to that selection. So if you click the, if you press Control I again now, right, go back up to the UV image editor, repeat the same process. So click the little picture icon, ribbon, and that's your basic ribbon texture assigned. We can adjust that actually whilst you're there.
The inside looks pretty good.
Yeah, it's mapped. You've got a vertical texture, but it's unwrapped horizontally. So you'll need to press yeah, you can press the R key, rotate.
Can you move the zoom out of the way?
That's your screen.
That's it.
Can I snap it?
Yes, if you hold the control key down whilst you do that, and you can snap.
Okay. No, let go.
And then left click to set. That's it. And then you can press the S key, and then the, well, it's either X or Y. That's it.
Oh, wait. Okay. S and then Y. Wow.
So are you trying to get the boxes to look kind of regular there? So that the texture won't have distortion?
Yeah. Okay. Wait, what did I do? No, okay. S, X. So. Wait, did I flip it? I don't know what happened there. This is
yes,
so
if you go, essentially, if you go too small or the mouse crosses over the pivot point, it'll flip the texture, and so that you essentially invert the action that you're doing.
I don't really know if I flipped it an odd or an even number of times.
That's all right. So if you go back, move the mouse over the 3D view again, and then do Control I, that inverts the selection, and you can do a similar thing to that as well. Although we might have to adjust, we may need to make an adjustment to the UVs here.
I kind of wish we would. We should have done them at the same time or something. Okay, how do I align it? Like the inside part?
Right, so for this, we need to make an adjustment to the way the UVs are unwrapped, because we did the inside and the outside edge of that point where the meshes join in the middle, but we didn't do the two side edges. So because those are still a continuous loop, they're smushing the UVs. So we have to break those by placing a UV seam there. So if you scroll...
Seam or sharp?
Sorry?
Do you do seam or sharp?
Seam for this, because we want to break the UV. So if you scroll, if you zoom into the center point that we're actually essentially looking at right now, that's it. Switch to wireframe.
Oops.
That's it. You might have to zoom in a little bit closer, but can you see that there are two edges, two short edges?
Short edges.
Yeah, so if you press the A key just to deselect everything to make it a bit clearer to see what's going on.
So much clearer.
Yeah. So those two edges that we've marked with a seam, they are connected top to bottom by a very short edge. Right click that.
It's this one, right?
Rotate, if you can't see it clearly, just rotate the scene a little bit so that you can see.
I just can't tell if I selected it, because I thought I clicked it.
I don't know.
Or is it this one?
Is it just me, or is this level of detail a little bit too keen?
Is this?
Well, this is you're right. It is, but these are the problems that you'll face when you do something like this. I mean, this is to the point with the ribbon that we were doing with your ribbon. There are a number of ways of addressing whether the ribbon is two-sided or one-sided, whether it has depth or not. But depending on what you do, you then have to consider the issues that creates for your UVs and how you unwrap the structure as a mesh, as a 3D object, and how all of that fits together with the texture. So it's not, I mean, the simple way of doing this would be to just literally, every time you make an object, you just unwrap it with a reset unwrap. But if you do that, it then makes it tricky for other people to do deriving from, depending on what it is that you're doing. Because you know, if you want perfection with your textures, as Jinxy wants, then you have to pay attention to this level of detail with UVs. Otherwise, you don't get the perfection with your texture alignments.
Got it.
So it's you know, yes, there are quick and easy ways of doing things, but which will be suitable for your own use. But from the point of view of an item that will be derivable and usable by other people, you've then got other considerations to keep in mind. So this kind of fiddly detail, which you do have to do, is a consequence of wanting a bow to be UV mapped properly so that a texture wraps around it properly and makes it easier for people to just do a find and replace essentially, and just use a, you know, as long as their texture has the same proportions, they can do whatever it is that they want on the image and it will automatically wrap correctly without any distortion around the
You
mesh.
just reminded me of a rule I forgot in the contest.
Which is what?
Don't use copyright images.
Oh, right, yeah.
Well, I'm out.
It's not a donut making contest, don't worry.
Not unless your thing is donut shaped. Giftbox.
Oh, so don't with the donut in it.
Probably could have started with a donut.
I think it would be fun if there was a gift box and it's shaped like a donut and you open the lid and there's a donut inside. It'd be like those little boxes they make for bananas. No.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, you make whatever you can.
No, but like the banana ones are a thing. Like they pack them in lunches and stuff. Like,
Oh, right. A banana-shaped
protect
gift box.
but it might be fun to protect your donut.
I really need not seen. Maybe I don't shop enough.
You don't go to like, I don't know, the dollar store or Target or something. And just go,
Banana holders. No,
or Amazon or something.
I did see. What was it? An avocado slicer. It was like a special tool for.
See, now they make little avocado holders.
No. This
just
is,
like
this
the banana.
is a scoop that's supposed to like scoop the avocado out and give you avocado slices in one move.
Oh,
Yes, because apparently people keep cutting their hands open trying to get the pips out of the avocados.
Now, see, that's the justification for a bagel cutter, and I understand that because cutting a bagel is a hazardous enterprise.
But you can cut an avocado with a butter knife.
Yes, or a spoon.
Or a spoon. Well, if you want to cut it in half, right? Well, which that slicer probably doesn't do. But yeah, you can use a spoon, a butter knife. That is kind of weird. And I've cut myself many times in the kitchen, but never dealing with avocados.
And the thing is, I don't see the egg slicers. I used to see those in the grocery store all the time.
Yeah.
Growing up, I think we even had one.
Wait, where did you grow up? Oh, here in California, right? You grew up in California? Yeah. I don't know, those are so last century.
Yeah. So is there a moral to her edges dilemma here? Should she just like be moving vertices around?
I can't right click and make anything do anything that I know that it's doing anything.
Well, if you press the A key, and where's the widget gone? Scroll outwards.
See, what I would do at this point, because I like to get the short, easy thing, is I would select one of those vertices on one side and put the 3D cursor there, and I would snap all of the rest of the vertices there.
Oh wait, you know what I would do? I would take the outside part of the ribbon and delete it piece by piece until we only had the inner part, and then I would make it a two-sided texture.
But that's not going to solve your UVs.
It'll make the whole thing done. That bow will be
but the problem that we were having was if you wrote happy on the texture, then on one side of the ribbon it would say happy, and on the other side of the ribbon it would say
whatever that is, yeah.
On the inside, but I see if that's okay. Here's what I would do.
So that's why you've got two ribbon.
Here's what I would do. I would I stand by my deleting part of the ribbon thing, but then I would take what's there and I would duplicate it. I would make it a tiny bit larger, and then I would flip the normals. What do you think?
No. Flipping the normals isn't going to help.
Why not? Well, I might have to then go to the map and flip the map.
It's the map.
Right, but I need another bow ribbon loop to do that. So that's why I would duplicate it, make it a tiny bit bigger, and then that one I would flip the normals on. I mean, I would flip the texture, well, and the normals. I would
Yeah,
flip the
but
normals.
then you've got the problem of making doubly sure that in IMVU, when you bring that kind of item in, that you have two-sided disabled. Otherwise, you're going to get the two loops occupying the same space.
That just still sounds a lot easier than what we're doing right now.
Well, it is. I mean, if you want to do that, then that's what you would do. You would just duplicate and invert the loop, but that doesn't create depth to the bow. That just creates a thin strip of faces that are in the shape of a loop.
Yeah. Well, I feel like putting a bunch of depth on it on such a thing that's probably going to be pretty small is, I mean, ribbons in real life don't have very much depth.
Not very much
It's a very thin thing.
Well, no, they don't. But it depends on the look that you're going for in terms of, are you going for photorealism, or do you just want a bow?
Photorealism.
Well, if you exit edit mode and go into object mode, just save this file as a version so that you've got it. And then what we can probably do is
this is like 3. Maybe I should have saved it as like 3D bow.
Artisan bow.
No, that's yours.
well, we're coming up on 2 hours now, so I mean, we won't really have much time to do anything.
Yeah, we should just give up for now.
Well,
Never give
that's giving up isn't exactly the word I was looking for. But
I just choose the wrong words. I'm like, we need a new victim for Blender. Oh, I'm giving up. Oh, I hate this. Yeah, my vocabulary, I don't need to swear. I just say the wrong thing, just with regular words.
Yeah.
no, well, what we can do is next session, which is Friday.
Yes.
Yeah, so if we don't get anyone asking how do you do something for, because I think that's what the Fridays are for, really.
Yeah, they should be, unless there's nobody around.
Yeah. So if there's nobody asking for help with their FBX stuff, we'll just continue with the bow, but do it the quick and easy way, or the quicker and easier way.
I broke the screen. I'm reading the comments now. I couldn't see anything before because Robert was showing the stuff on the screen and I was showing stuff on my laptop. Now I can read Polly's comments.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we're still broadcasting. There hasn't been any interruption from that point of view, so it's likely going to be something. I mean, that's not to say that can't happen.
Just say what can't happen?
Breaking the stream.
The stream would just stop like that.
Yeah.
Oh, it happened to me before where I was suddenly looked and I wasn't doing anything for me and I had to press play again and I don't know why. I don't know what happened. So, any final parting wisdom for today?
Not specifically, other than the cube test, which will be useful for people just to determine whether they can export using their 3D app of choice.
Yeah, we definitely should get to exporting.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I shall finish the gift box, and we want that set up as a furniture item.
Yeah, we definitely want to get. Oh yeah, are we going to have Robert submit that? You know, if nobody has any issues on Friday, maybe Jazz Cat, you should make a gift box on Friday from start to finish.
So
'Cause
it'll be a relatively short broadcast then.
because that's how fast you are.
Well, I didn't say that.
It sounded like it.
No, I mean, a lot of it is, as I said before, it's all muscle memory. So when you're just working to do whatever it is that you're doing, you're just relying on muscle memory. So you don't even think about the buttons you're pressing. You just know that it does that. So when you then have to show that to somebody else, it's not only are you not relying on muscle memory, but you're actually having to rethink everything that you do because you're double checking yourself. It's not just that you're not relying on your muscle memory and you're not just thinking, you're actually double checking yourself because you have to think about what it is that you're doing.
Yeah, you have to kind of go and look at, if you want to go look at a panel and say, is this where I think where the tool I need is, you can just quickly.
Yeah.
Or just let your hand do it for you.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, the same with left and right mouse and middle mouse. Left and right in particular. You are often saying.
You have to say left mouse button, right mouse buttons, and you end up pressing the wrong.
Yeah.
I think you shouldn't have to say which button it is if it's the left one, because that's what everyone's automatically going to click. But I guess that could be confusing.
Well, I was using Hexagon the other day, testing that, and it uses the middle mouse button in combination with the Alt key.
Well, don't you use the middle mouse in combination with Alt to navigate in Blender or some of the navigation? I don't know. I just keep trying them until it moves the way I want it to.
Yeah, but that's how you get applications to crash. No, you don't use the Alt key for anything. It'll lock the screen, but
that could explain a lot of things that happen in my computer.
What Alt actually does is it snaps to fixed rotational values when you use the middle mouse.
Oh, well, that's handy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have the opposite of muscle memory for that stuff. I have I remember it's one of these 4 things memory.
Dyslexia?
I don't know. How does dyslexia work if there's 4 things instead of...
It's just mixing things up.
Yeah, it's a mental randomizer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have them mixed up. I mean, it's not like, like it's supposed to be Alt and I'm clicking Control. I just literally don't know, so I randomly choose one. I don't think that's dyslexic.
No, but it may look like dyslexia.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, lady and gentlemen.
2 ladies.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Actually, there says 7 people, so that means there are 3 crowns? Mystery people.
Where does it say? Is it the crown up there?
No, that's your notification. So that tells you what you have from your, what do you call it? Your
hello, lady.
your prime loop. But yeah, Polly Smells is a lady.
Okay.
Potato lady. She's potato lady.
Good to know.
She's the one with the postcards.
Okay.
You know, the Disney princesses, if they were potatoes.
Okay.
That's her.
All right.
Yeah.
So there is a connection to potatoes.
Yeah, and she grows them in her garden, or at least one. She grew 1 potato.
Is it just potatoes, or is it any tuber?
That would be Disney princesses, or that she grows in her garden.
Okay, thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Okay.
I got to take off.
Yeah.
Me too. Just potatoes.
Just potatoes. That sounds like a store name.
It's like just desserts, you know?
Right.
Oh, you're gonna get your just potatoes.
Just potatoes.
Well, there's, I mean, when you think how many varieties of potatoes there actually are, and they
Yeah.
all have a slightly different flavour, so why not
Yes.
just have a
Yeah.
store for just potatoes?
Yes.
I got a book on growing potatoes one time, and then I found out it was actually it was either from the UK or Australia, I don't know, but like every potato variety was different. And so it was completely useless to me.
You mean every potato variety that was, she would go to just potatoes too. What would you like? Would you like French fries or scallops today? Scallop potatoes.
I'll have potatoes for my appetizer, potatoes for my entree. I don't know what about a beverage? Oh, vodka. I will have vodka to drink and some potatoes for dessert.
Well, don't forget, wasn't moonshine made with, well, just about anything that they could get their hands on?
I think moonshine is traditionally made with some sort of corn or other grain. Yeah. But she's right. Potatoes usually go into vodka. Although vodka you can also make out of anything, apparently. Which
not just potato vodka. Corn. This
potato smoothie.
I looked the first Google result uses corn.
So when I was this is a fun fact. When I was at Forterra, we had a set of servers, and each server was named for a different method of preparing potatoes. So we had a server called mashed, a server called scalloped, a server called baked.
So our VP of, what is it? VP of talent, people and talent. He has backyard chickens, Mike. He's got backyard chickens. He's got 8 of them. And at first he was trying to tell us they were named after the VPs at IMVU, but then he said that was a joke. And they're actually named like Cacciatore, stuff like that. I don't know.
A little bit of foreshadowing.
Oh, they're laying a lot of eggs, so they're safe for now.
All right, farewell, friends.
See you until next time. I shall stop the stream as well now. So, cheery bye, everybody.
All right, and I am going to end the Zoom.